Welcome to the 2024 Annual Safety Meeting. In this lesson, we'll talk about safe passenger conduct. So what is considered unsafe behavior? Fighting in or around the school bus, throwing objects in or out of the school bus, moving around the school bus while it is in motion, and bullying behavior to other students and or school bus driver, and distracting the school bus driver. So when you look at some of the factors that may affect unsafe behavior on the school bus, the time of day. You guys know that better than anybody. In the morning, kids are typically a little bit more reserved, but in the afternoon, definitely more rambunctious. The time of year. When you look at what's coming up for a lot of you guys, the end of the school year, depending on when you take this lesson, but the end of the school year is always where the kids are ready to get out of school, things like that. So, fights, stuff like that happen at the end of the school year. Inconsistent discipline. Discipline is not always handed out the same way, depending on the school district, the school, the bus, whatever the case may be. Overloaded buses, kids being cramped into tight places, getting on each other's nerves, touching each other, things like that. A lot of kids don't like that. And then external factors, the fights in school spill out onto the school bus. And then rumors, kids believing whatever somebody said and then they want to confront them. So when you look at that bus right there, you can see where that bus is like fully loaded. But you can see on a hot day or something like that where tempers possibly could flare. So as a school bus driver, communication is key. You can't expect results if you never communicate what your expectations are. So suggestions for school bus drivers: remain professional. No matter what the situation, always be professional. Have a positive attitude. Have a positive attitude. Remember, you guys are teachers too. Be firm and fair. Be friendly and show concern. Have a little empathy. And know your school district's policy. So when you look at fights on school buses, this is probably the worst situation you can find yourself in when you got one or two students or a group of students that are fighting on the school bus. So when a fight occurs on the school bus, the first thing you have to do is assess the situation. Is the bus in motion? Can you pull over to a safe place or go back to the school? Where's the fight taking place? On the bus, at the stop? How many students on board? And who's fighting? Males, females, high school, middle school, or elementary students? And that definitely makes a difference, because some high school students you do not want to get in the middle of, even if you feel like you could. Same thing with some middle school students. So it is important to know who's actually fighting on the bus. And keep in mind that if a fight erupts, you are not required to put yourself at risk, but you must behave in a reasonable manner to reduce danger to not only the fighting students, but also other students and yourself.
It just made me pretty angry as a parent, especially one that has two of my children ride on that bus. It was very upsetting.
He's talking about this video. Brett McDonald says it appeared to be an ordinary fight, just kids being kids. But as the one kid slows his punching down, he's egged on by the bus driver of all people.
Beat the hell out of him. Do it!
The crowd of kids goes wild, and one of the students involved wails on the other even harder. Not once did the bus driver step in to break up the fight.
Those bus drivers are there to protect our kids, and we're supposed to trust the schools to do that while they're on that bus.
As soon as he saw the video, he contacted the school district superintendent and their HR department. Within 24 hours of the district hitting play on the video, an internal investigation opened up.
We're still investigating the matter with kids and stuff, so we're taking care of it.
But the bus driver, who has been a longtime employee of Blanchard Public Schools, has already been dealt with. The school district saying they don't condone this type of behavior, especially from an adult.
He's no longer driving the bus right now.
I hate that. that somebody would lose their job and their livelihood. I would never wish that on anyone. But on the other hand, like I said, those adults have got to keep our kids safe.
In Blanchard, Kaylee Olivas, Oklahoma's News 4.
Now, when you look at that fight and look on fights on a school bus as a whole, the first thing you want to do after you've assessed what's going on is call dispatch immediately. Do you need police? What do you need? Pull over to a safe place, and that may be going back to the school. At least in most school districts, you'll have a SRO there. Secure your bus, take the key. Get the kids fighting attention if you can. Remove other students out of the way. If you drive a mixed bag of kids from elementary all the way through high school, if you got a couple high school students fighting, some kids are going to cheer that on. But a lot of your younger kids, like your kindergartners up to about third grade, are crying. They're scared. All right. So you want to make sure that if the fight is getting out of control, move other kids out of the way, so they don't get hurt as well. If possible, separate the students. But again, know your policy, and you're not required to put yourself in harm if you feel that would be the case. If the fight is out of control, may need to evacuate to protect others. So if you got two bigger, older kids that are just really just swinging on each other, pounding each other, and they're all over the school bus, you may have to evacuate your school bus. And make sure you update dispatch. Whether you evacuate or you don't, make sure you talk to them about what's going on and what your needs are. Do you need the police? Do you need paramedics? Both. And stay calm, stay professional. Now, this is a real issue that we have seen over the past few years, where students are throwing objects out of the school bus. And most times when kids are throwing stuff out of the school bus, the way they do it is they look to see if the bus driver is looking back at them, especially if the bus is in motion. And then what they do is just throw it straight out the window. You oblivious that it even happened. But again, we got to make sure we're paying attention to this.
I sound better than you. Right next to you. It's right next to you. The racket.
Debbie! We had
I did your speak last night because we were about to announce it. Oh my god!
So in both of those videos, I mean, you've seen what those kids were throwing out of that bus, and it definitely could have caused harm, an accident, or whatever. So you probably won't even know that something has been thrown until you have an angry driver blow their horn at you or try to get your attention, usually at a stoplight or a stop sign. So you think about the motoring public, they're sitting there minding their business. A kid then threw a book and hit their windshield, or like you saw in the video, throwing stuff into their cars. things like that. So immediately contact dispatch or the police if the offended vehicle is becoming aggressive or violent or brandish a weapon. Never give an angry motorist access to your bus or the students. And in reality, we don't know what they're going to do if they come to your bus or try to board your school bus. As a driver, you can understand the motorist being angry, but road rage incidents are on the rise here in Indiana, and you don't know the driver's intent. If you have an angry driver following your bus, law enforcement meeting your bus may be at a location along the route, may be the only option if you feel threatened or unsafe. And have your director supervisor pull the video from your bus to identify the offenders throwing items from the bus. Again, throwing objects from the bus. If you look at this picture, you can see a kid is reaching out the window, getting ready to throw something at the guy that's walking there. So it can lead to damage to other vehicles, can cause an accident, injuries, or death. Students need to be told to keep trash, books, tablets, etc. inside the school bus. Students need to be aware of school district policies. They also need to be aware of the consequences for them and their parents when it comes to reimbursement of damages they may have caused. And one of the questions I always get is it law that kids can bring their windows all the way down? And that is strictly up to your school district. There is no written law on how far a window can be down when the bus is in transit, but that's going to be up to you as the driver and your school corporation. Now, students remaining safely seated. This is another issue that we have seen a lot, where kids riding school buses, the bus driver driving, and kids are just jumping from seat to seat to seat, running up and down the aisles, things like that. So when you look at school bus capacity, Indiana Code 20-27-10-3, capacity of a school bus, a governing body may not require a school bus driver to transport students for whom a regular seat is not available in the school bus. Now, in most cases, when this happens, it's going to be the first week of school or so, because you got kids who ride the bus that they didn't think was going to ride the bus, or kids getting on the wrong buses. This is when we're just alert the school district that you have an overloaded bus, come up with a solution, but don't get into an argument, go back and forth with your school corporation about an overloaded bus. Just make them aware and give them an opportunity to fix the situation or come up with a solution. So the standee line, right? Indiana Code -9-21-12-16, forward area of school bus off limits to children. When a school bus is in motion, students are prohibited from occupying any space forward of a vertical plane drawn through the rear of the driver's seat and perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of the bus. Every school bus must be marked with a line or otherwise equipped in order to indicate the prohibited area to students, and have clearly posted at or near the front of the bus a sign stating that it is a violation of Indiana law for a school bus to be operated with any students occupying the prohibited area. A school bus driver who knowingly or intentionally violates this section commits a Class C misdemeanor. And one situation that we see where the bus driver is really not being intentional with this, is just something they're not really paying attention to, is when you're approaching a stop to let kids off, and as you're making the approach, kids are already walking forward to get off the school bus, with some kids standing in front of the standee line. So this is a situation where you want to make sure that the kids know, don't stand up until I come to a complete stop, because if you had to slam on your brakes and kids are already walking before the bus is stopped, you could see what could happen.
Hi.
You guys need to be in your seats.
On March 1st, at least 30 Castle Rock Elementary School students were riding the bus home.
You guys want to see how dangerous that is? Do you get that? That's why you need to be in your seat. Turn around and sit down properly. If you guys can't do that, you will get written up. Do you get that?
The students, ranging from kindergarten to 6th grade, were confused and startled from the jolt at just 9 miles per hour. This little girl in the back of the bus picked up her phone. When the driver dropped her off at the stop, she started crying. The driver closed the door and started to pull away before opening the door to speak to the adult that picked her up.
Is she okay? Is she all right? Yeah, she was hurt though. So, might go easy on the brakes, bro.
During the driver's explanation, the kid sitting in the back piped up to listen to the exchange.
They were running all over the place. What? They have to sit in their seat. They would not get bounced around if they didn't stay in their seat. So I'm sorry if she got hurt, but there was 60 kids on here bouncing all over the place, and I'm a substitute driver, and the driver that normally does not have any control on these kids. So I was trying to get them to get in their seats. I had them on the microphone. I said they need to be in their seats. I was coming to a stop, and I hit the brakes hard. Because they were not listening. So I'm sorry if she got hurt.
She wasn't the only student who told a parent they were hurt that day.
My son came tearing through the door that afternoon. He sprinted all the way home. He was out of breath and red-faced and absolutely sobbing and shaking. He was terrified.
When Lauren Thompson helped her 4th grade son calm down, he told her what happened on the bus. She immediately called the district's transportation office, asking them to pull the video.
He had slammed his head into the seat back in front of him. Another buddy had slammed his head into the window, so his neck and his head were hurting.
Lauren was especially concerned because her son was still recovering from a concussion after slipping on ice a few weeks before.
In those moments when he's telling you this, how do you feel?
Scared to death that somebody hurt my kid. You know, I know not all the kids on the bus had a concussion, but instantly I'm like, okay, do we need to go to the ER? What's happening? Who is this person? This is not their regular bus driver.
That person, that driver, is 61-year-old Brian Fitzgerald. He was hired as a bus driver by Douglas County School District in October. Internal school records reviewed by 13 Investigates reveal Fitzgerald had just finished up class less than a week before and was, quote, only half driving by himself and is not experienced in dealing with difficult students. In the days prior to the incident, he had been driving special education students. This was his first time driving a general education bus. The evening of the incident on the bus, Fitzgerald wrote this letter to supervisors, which 13 Investigates obtained from his employee file. He expressed concerns about what he described as a historical pattern of improper student management on the bus he was driving that day. Fitzgerald wrote that he told the children on the bus to sit down 4 times before hitting the brakes while rolling to a stop sign. He ended the letter saying he was sincerely sorry for his actions, adding, being a new driver, I did not make the best decision, and if I were able to redo what I did, I would rethink my decisions. Fitzgerald called himself an old school guy during an interview with the district. He was pulled from driving all school buses in Douglas County the day after the incident. The district then sent the information to the Castle Rock Police Department and fired Fitzgerald.
You guys want to see how dangerous that is?
We take for granted inside the school is safe. We trust they've all been vetted and are safe. And I hate that we can't believe that, but we can't.
Now, Lauren is preparing for her son to testify if the criminal case against Fitzgerald goes to trial. A spokesperson for the Douglas County School District tells 13 Investigates, riding a bus to and from school should be a happy, enjoyable experience for students. The behavior and actions of this bus driver are completely unacceptable. We are so grateful to the parents and the principal who reported this incident, allowing us to take swift action and ensure this driver was never again allowed behind the wheel of a DCSD bus.
Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Guideline 17. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Safety Program Standard Guideline 17 specifically states that every student must be seated before the bus is in motion. Under Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards number 222, school bus passenger safety is accomplished either through compartmentalization or lap belts, depending on the gross vehicle weight rating of the bus. Some states and school districts have policies that allow students to stand on school buses. Standees are not afforded any protection in crashes or sudden driving maneuvers. So report to your supervisor an overloaded bus immediately. Explain to students the importance of staying seated. You may have to assign seats, but check your policy with regards to that. Some school districts want all kids assigned seats. Some school districts leave it up to the bus driver. But if kids are going to be running all over the bus, then it's probably best to have them assigned 2 seats. Teach them to sit fully in the seat and face forward, and why. Keep all body parts inside the bus. And do not brake check your children or your students when they stand up, because this can lead to injuries as well, which will ultimately get you in trouble. And I want to point out this young lady you see in the picture right here. This happened back in early August of 2023. The school bus had let off a group of children, and this young lady stuck her head out the window to wave at some of her friends, and her head hit a pole and it killed her instantly. So this is a prime example of why we want our kids to stay seated and do what they're supposed to do. There is really, no situation, whether it's fights, throwing stuff out of the school bus, kids running around the bus when the bus is in motion, that we can fix until we understand we have a problem. And not only that, it's something that you definitely need to talk to your district about. How are you going to handle those types of situations? So here again is one of our great drivers from throughout the state that are doing great things, not only for their children and their transportation department, but for the communities as well. This concludes the 2024 Annual Safety Meeting on Passenger Conduct.